This webinar is recorded. If you have any questions and stuff like that, I guess you guys can always send me email. This is going to be a live demonstration, so it's going to be few of you guys. So if you have any question, you guys got the first step. All right, today we're going to talk about IBI framework. I'm pretty sure majority of you guys have this installed, right? So how many of you guys are using 2016 now as your main AutoCAD? Okay, very handful. Okay, what about 2014? You guys still on 2014 mostly? Okay. Now, yep. Welcome. Just grab lunch. So what we want to do is that we want to push people towards more of a 2016 framework rather than just keeping with the old, because a lot of the updates are using the 2016. So what's the purpose of our IBI framework? Well, the framework is actually supposed to be for people, for you guys, right? Where to look for the content and how do you increase the productivity. And basically what it aims for is that you guys do all the production work and let us, the content creator, manager, whoever, take care of all your grunt work. So what tends to happen right now in our office is that we basically took an existing project, we copy it and we paste it. That's basically how we work. Unfortunately, the biggest issue I had with this is that they're using older standards that may not be applied for the new one. So most of the time, I get calls saying that, oh, please help me fix this. I was like, nah, you guys caught me the bad time, right? A lot of times people always ask that. That's the first thing they will ask is, fix my crap, okay? If you do that, most of the time, if you use the old copy and paste method, certain things will break on you for the newer version. Just keep in mind. Now, I always apply KISS principle to basically on all the projects, okay? The reason why is that if you keep it simple, everybody understands and nobody has to do much work. Now, the other thing you have to keep in mind is that the reason why we want to do this KISS principle is because we're heading towards more of a collaboration where files have been shared between Revit, AutoCAD, SketchUp, Vectorworks, and et cetera, et cetera. If you don't have this sort of a framework, what tends to happen is that people just do their own thing and they're not considering other people. Now, most of the time, contents require feedback, okay? I've been asking a lot of people. Today I'm going to show you some of the contents I've created, and then if you guys have any content, you're welcome to share. The reason why we are in the unique position because I've created this content, and this is actually shared globally within IBI. So whatever you guys doing inside Vancouver has an impact to all the office across Canada and USA as well. Okay, so that's why it's very important you guys give content, because if you guys don't give content, the people in Toronto may have override your standards, and that's it. You're basically using the Toronto standards. So this is why whoever gets up first tends to get the priority, basically. All right, let's go over demo. Okay, how to load the IBI framework. Now, I'm just going to go open up AutoCAD. Okay. Now, before you do anything within your like let's say if you open up AutoCAD, everything looks fine. The first thing I want you to do is always check and see if you have the right framework loaded, because what tends to happen is that you may not even notice that your framework is actually referring to C drive rather than the I drive. Yeah, I'm just waiting for this to load. And also, if you guys have any question, feel free to just type it in, okay, in the chat box, and I'll try to basically answer to your question as fast as possible. Yeah, I hate it when it happens. Check license. Yeah. Oh, there you go. That's good. It's okay. First thing I'll tell user to do is that you go to A, go to Options. Okay. Every time when IT installs a new machine for you, you always want to check and make sure that you have iDrive attached to your profile. If you don't have it, you have to delete it and reload it in. I'm going to show you how to kind of reload it. Okay, let's say assuming that you have like a wrong profile or you don't have the iDrive. The first thing I would do is that just click on the unnamed profile and set it as a current. Okay, just delete this. Okay. I would also do deleting the menu load as well. If let's say you want to reload this as a menu load. And I would just get rid of the IBI, just say unload. Okay. Do not unload all the other stuff or else your menu is going to be blank. All right. Just to be aware of that, because I know that some people just go unload like crazy. Don't do that. Only unload the IBI. Okay. If you unload anything, you may have to call me so I could actually help you load back those menus. Okay. Just be careful. Just don't unload anything. All right. Let's say you have a start from scratch. How do you load the profile? Very easy. You just go back to Option. Okay. First thing you want to do is that you want to go to the Profile tab and say Import. Okay. Next thing you want to do is that you want to go into the iDrive Technical Standard AutoCAD 2016. Okay. It's under User Profile, which is the last folder. And what you do is that just load this IBI ARG, and then just say Apply Close and say Set Current. Okay. The next thing you want to do, this is step 1. Step 2 would be just type in menu load. Unfortunately, there is no menus or buttons to access menu load. You have to type it in. Okay. You bring back this, hit Browse, and then what it does is that it will pop up a menu CUI, but make sure you double check and place it in the correct folder. Technical Standard 2016. And it's the first folder, CUI, and you load this. Okay, open and hit load. Okay, now what happens is that once it's loaded, I would recommend that you close AutoCAD and restart it, because what happens is that sometimes the menus will not process until you double click and open AutoCAD. Okay, any questions so far? And once you get that, you pop up a menu saying that it's going to be Imperial Metric. Now, by default, we want people to select their DWG template before you apply to a drawing. The reason why is that sometimes when you just double-click on something, you don't know if it's metric or imperial. It will just set you whatever default. And we had several issues in the past where users are using the wrong template and they're getting the wrong line type. Okay. With this, you just choose I'm going to be in metric or imperial, and then just hit OK. What it does is that it will load the correct line types and hatch patterns. Okay. All right. Well, once you load the menus, first thing I'm going to it's going to give you that error message. Okay. So to access to this menu bar, I know that some people, the classic guys, want this menu bar. You can click on this button on the top. Okay, you see that there's like one show menu bar. If I hide the menu bar, you only get the ribbon. Okay, if you want that classic one, just say show menu bar. And what it does is that you get that access to those both. Now we split this up into IBI group and IBI documents. Now this IBI documents, when you click on it, it will just refer you to documents on the iPortal. All right, so you get all the help. So if you want to like sheet set manager, click on that, and what it does is that it goes into the iPortal, and then you just say hit open. There you go, Sheet Set Manager. Now some of these documents are old. I'm in the process of updating. Okay, but most of the time it still works. So what you have is that within this menu you have the templates, the tool palette switcher, annotated scale, line type, the regular hidden AutoCAD commands, the field replacer, cleanup, 2D tools, and 3D tools. Finally, it's the link. If you have like email support, if you need anything, click on this. And what it does is that it opens up an Outlook and then say, if you need any help or any support, just click on that. All right. For some of you guys, you probably know how to add a template. If you don't, this is basically if you're doing like if you want to send a consultant a DWG file of our title block, first thing I would do is click on this, okay, insert layout. And what it does is that it asks you which template to choose, okay. You notice that there's a presentation and then there's a sheet. Typically, I would use the sheet, say okay, open. Next thing you want to do is just choose the template. Let's say, for example, I'm going to use Arch D, for example, vertical, border, and hit open. What it does is that it basically adds this title block automatically. Now, you notice that in this title block, a lot of it's saying, yes, you make sure that you modify this. Now, this is saved in iDrive, so nobody's touching it. What you have to do is, if you want to send this drawing, make sure you bind this. Okay, make sure you bind insert. Okay, and then what you do with this is that I would just explode it and just choose your office. Okay, right here is that the Ken West and then say Vancouver Professional Service or Architecture. And there you go. And what you do is that when you save it, you just send it to your consultant. Okay, pretty simple stuff. The next step is the sheet set manager. All right, the sheet set manager is basically like kind of like the bread and butter of file organization within the AutoCAD realm. So what you do is that you click on sheet set manager, you just say I want imperial or metric. All right, when you click on this, what it does is that it's going to give you this kind of like a discipline method. Okay, if you're working on landscape, interior design, and civil drawings, you double click and then you go in there. Right now the folder is empty because I am in a process of creating templates for them. For architecture, so when you double click on the architecture, okay, you have to know what stage the project you're on. Okay, if you know your project is going to go all the way from, let's say, the beginning, conceptual design, to construction documentation, you choose the stage all. If you're only doing certain part, let's say you're only doing design development and then the rest is going to be done in Revit, then you just choose one of the phase. There's the differences between all of it. All right, I'm just going to demonstrate like what it means. I'm just going to copy this. Okay, just copy it. Or actually, I'm just going to double click just to show you the differences. So this is like basically all stages. So what happens is that you have sheet set that basically covers from the design, preliminary design, design development, and CD. Okay, so basically it goes from the beginning to the end. Okay, I know in the past what people does is that they just copy another sheet set manager and then it was causing so much chaos. And some people confuse like what's the latest sheet set manager. So whereas this one, you have to understand what project phase it's going to go into. If it's going to be going into Revit, you know that it's going to be one of these stages, right? So it only stops at design development and then the rest of the working drawings is going to go to Revit. Okay. Sometimes we have that hybrid. Sometimes we have the full thing gone into AutoCAD only. So yeah, we're just basically creating a lot of different scenarios for different phases of the project. So just keep in mind that this is what it's used for. If you have to know if that project's going to working drawing, then you have to choose certain phases of the project. Okay, any questions so far? I should delete this. And
so this is actually new compared to what
it
has
was
been old.
That's correct. Okay, yes, this is like the old one. It's basically covering very generic. Unfortunately, the biggest issue is that some people want to create like slab edge drawings, RCP, and it's not covered within the current framework. The current framework is more to do with the previous one. What you know is basically for one phase only. Very generic, all right? It's AIA, but it's very generic. So right now we're just adding that construction documentation, and then if you're working with other team, let's say you're working with landscape, urban design, interior design, they all have different ways of doing things, okay? So this is why I want to capture a lot of the templates so that when they actually using certain things, you understand how their template works. Okay, right now, I know that in interior design or a certain phase of the project, everybody does everything differently. We want to stop people from doing that so that everybody just follow the template and just use it. If they don't understand, come and talk to me, or we can set up a new template or something so that we can capture that. That's the one thing that a lot of people don't do, just do it their own, and then that causes a lot of chaos. Everybody's saying, why is this different from the other? Okay, so everything has to be documented. Okay, if you do anything new, it has to be documented so that everybody within the organization understand how this project works. Okay, that's one thing that a lot of people don't cover, is that your project is going to get transferred over to the next person. Sometimes it could be another office. Okay, some of our office, let's say we have one project that we are doing, like an airport for Calgary, and then we have to send a lot of the sheet set manager over there. And over there, nobody understands what the heck we did in our sheet set manager because it's too customized. It's something to keep in mind. What we have to do this as an organization so that we don't screw everybody up. All right, let's cover sheet set manager. Now the next one is the reference title block. What it does is that, let's say you have a drawing. I'm just going to open up like a really simple for our gateway. Sure, let's see. All right, let's say you're doing like this sort of a thing, and you want to organize how the layout's going to go within your project. The first thing you would do is that you would take this reference title block, and you know, first of all, you have to add scale. Let's say I'm going to add a 1/4 inch scale to this project. Oh, geez. Let it run. First, I'm just going to add the scale. Okay. First, add the scale. Next, you want to say, I want to do a reference title block, Imperial. And when you put it in there, it'll tell you whether or not your drawing fits within one paper size. You can choose a lot of paper size. Let's say, for example, I have arch E, okay, vertical. Okay, that still fits. Let's say if I want to go arch D, will it fit arch D? And I'm just going to go up vertical. Okay, so in this case, you probably say, yeah, it's pretty tight, but it still works. Okay, so this is kind of like how you plan things out, so you know how many sheets you're going to create, just as a quick kind of estimate. Because I know that in working drawings, we have to create a lot of the sheets. So rather than creating a sheet, plan it out beforehand. Okay, so that's what it's used for. Some people find it useful. Some people say, I don't care, but it's there. Okay, the option's there. Next thing we want to cover is basically the tool palette switcher. Okay, what you have is that you have a general. When you click on general, what it does is that it gives you like some utility, drawing gizmo, line type, title block. Okay, this is just a repeat of this. And then the next one, it's very important, is the depot. Okay, the depot is where we kept a lot of our content. So let's say, for example, you want to do a landscape. So what we're going to do is that click on the landscape. Okay, you go to model space, and this is all your content. You copy the content you want. Let's say, for example, I want the trees. Control C. And you go to this floor plan and say Control V. So that's basically how we work. You just pick the content. The second how you do this is that you can use the Design Center. Okay, just type in DC, or you go into, I believe is could be View, and I think there is one called the Design Center. Yeah, I probably missed out on that, so I don't know which menu it's on. But just type in DC, okay? What it does is that it will pop up this menu. The one thing you want to do is that this is old. This came out since 2000. I know back east in the office, Civil 3D used a lot of Design Center. For us architecturally, I prefer the tool palette because I'll show you the reason why. It's much simpler for architects, okay? So what you do is that if you want to do the Design Center method, you can still do it. Just say, hit open the drawing. Okay. What it does is that it will basically, actually click on folder, sorry. Okay. And what you can do is that scroll to the iDrive technical standard, and where the Design Center is 2016, and click on the IBI content, and it falls under design. Okay. So what you have is that you have a lot of the other stuff that you can actually go in, and then you can say explore. And in here, there's a lot of blocks that you can look at, and then you can say insert block, and say okay. It's pretty laborious, but if you want that method, yes, Design Center is used. You can still use it. Okay. I personally, it's more clicks. You have to go in, and then sometimes the menu system is very small. You can't see it. Okay. I like big icons. I hate small icons. I know that some people, you know, our eyes strain, right? All right. So that's the general. So the launcher, what I have is that I have a launcher that you can actually launch another software. Okay. Again, it's better you just add icons here and just click on it. This is kind of used in the old Windows XP experience. Back in the old days, Windows XP, you don't have this ability to pin your icon, correct? This only exists in Windows 7. So what I did is I create like a launcher list. So if you want to use like multiple software, you can click on the Microsoft Windows Word. Yes, it opens that up. It still works. But it's just a novelty of the past, right? So if you guys want to use it, you can still use it, but I'm not gonna force people to say, okay, you have to use it. Now, there's also links, so you can actually say, okay, I want like IBI group. You just click on that. And what it does is that basically brings up the information. And unfortunately, it goes to whatever the default Firefox. So if you're using Internet Explorer as your default, it will go to that page. The next thing is just basically the AutoCAD, like 2D, 3D, and default. I'm not going to click on it because you guys probably know, like whenever you open up AutoCAD and you want to click on Sample Tool Palette, that's what it is. Okay, I'm not going to go over that. The one thing that most people, if you're in architects, you will want to click on architecture. Now, there's a lot of menus. So the top 6 are the standard moving forward. The last, the last 4, this ACA is actually meant for if you're using AutoCAD architecture. Do not click on this menu, okay, because it's not going to work for your thing. It's only work if you have a certain menu works with the vertical products. AutoCAD architecture is like Revit, but in AutoCAD way, but unfortunately we're not using it in this office. This is only applied for Calgary office. The next one, last one, if you're working with another, like Toronto office, they have their own standard stuff. Okay, you can click on residential legacy high-rise. What it does is that if you're working with them, collaboration and stuff like that, this is their kind of their menu. So for us, we're basically want to click on the standard. Okay, so what standard does is that it gives you all the hatch pattern, shape, textile, etc., etc., etc. So if you want to add layers, so all you have to do is just click on this, just drop it in. And when you click on layer, you notice that it basically will create this layer for you right down here. Okay, so the user doesn't have to think about, oh, what's the new layer, because we don't want people to create layers. We want people to just add layers. Now, the reason why we don't want people to create layers is because sometimes when they create layers, they don't add the proper line types. Okay, you notice that when I click on a lot of this, let's say, for example, I click on this, a lot of this line type has a built-in default line type. Okay, you know why is this important? It's because when you start to use Revit or anybody that's collaborating with you, this will tell them what line type it's going to be. Okay, I know that in AutoCAD we just use CTV files, but for other software they're using line weight as kind of like their default. What's heaviest and what's the lightest. So for Revit, when you put this into Revit, it will translate this exactly 0.7. Okay, so the person that grabbed that drawing doesn't have to figure out what line type there's going to be. Okay, just as a moving forward standard, this is why I tell people don't copy and paste drawings from old, because when you start to use this for Revit, it doesn't have any line type, and what happens is that it's going to use the default line type, which is by color, and sometimes the color could be heavy or light, you don't know, and then it will screw it up. Okay, it's very important. This is why this becomes kind of like de facto. Just use it. If you have to create a new layer, like for like everyday use, you have to come and talk to me so that I can add that extra layer into this. Okay, this is why I'm saying to a lot of people, don't create your own. If you need to use it for your project, just talk to me, and then we'll just add it in, and then that's going to be global. Everybody has that access to that. Okay, now how to work with text, it's pretty easy. Okay, first of all, you have to add scale. So let's say I'm going to change the scale to 316, for example. Next thing you want to do is that you want to select the text you want to use. Okay, 332nd, which is equivalent to 2.5 millimeters if you're using metric. So what it does is that when you just type it in, the size will automatically adjust to that. And then if let's say I want to do 1/4 inch, and you click on this again, you see that the text size kind of becomes, it scales itself, okay? So this is why I said just add scale, put it in the correct text height, and then that's it. That's all you have to do. So you don't have to go into how this is how we do it in the past, is that you select this, and you kind of have to figure out what the model text. So basically you have to take that size, 332nd, times it by the scale. Now we don't have to do that anymore, okay? All you have to do, add the correct size, add the correct text height, and that's it.
Excuse me, where did you actually add the scale?
Oh, how do you add the scale? You see this, there's an Imperial Engineering, metric millimeters and metric meters. Okay, you click on this. Okay.
And that's in model space.
That's a model space, yes. All right. And the other thing I strongly advise people don't create their own scale, because we have several projects that someone actually modified the scale, and that screws up a lot of their text display because it wasn't set to the correct scale. So this is why if they don't understand, they have to kind of talk so we can kind of like clarify a lot of this issue. Okay. If you start creating your own standards, yeah, that's where things are usually like the most headache part is fixing their problems.
So just a question. So you have to know ahead which drawing will have what scale. So you can add the correct scale and then everything will work.
Yes, yes, and yes. And the other thing is that a lot of users just have to understand like what kind of a scenario they're working on. So for example, if you're doing on plan, you have to know that the biggest size you probably use for site plan is 1/16 of an inch. And if you're using overall 1/8, and then if you're using like a partial plan, it's a 1/4 inch. It's always going to be a 1/4 inch. So just look at this, okay? Make sure that you identify what scale they're in. For details, it could be 3 inch, it could be a 1/2 inch, it could be anything. So.
Okay, but if you use one drawing like for floor plans and then later in bigger scale, like 1/8 and 1/4, how you work with that?
Okay, so this is how you add multiple scale. So let's say, for example, you just go text, okay? If you know that you're going to use for both scale.
Mm-hmm. So you'll just add scale to annotation.
Yeah, exactly. You add it in only if you want that size to change at a 1/4 inch. Okay. Mm-hmm. You do not want to. If you do not want to add it, that's fine. Okay. There's this button right here that tells you if it's in the wrong scale. Okay. Let's say, for example, this is 3 inch to a foot. Notice that it just turns off. Okay. That's something that always gets a lot of people is that, oh, where's my text? It's missing. Make sure you turn this on. Okay. By turning this on, what it does is that it takes the smallest scale from your drawing, and it will just display it. Okay.
I noticed that most people use 1:1 scale in model space.
Okay, yes, you could do. You can still use 1:1. I have no qualms about it, but it's only when you add in annotation that will drive this. Okay, it's only for annotation. For model, we don't care. It's always 1:1. Okay, you always draw 1:1. Also notice that when you draw like line type, this will also affect that. Okay. So you should not be using LT scale. I know this is the old school. This is how we used to do it. This is the LT scale 24. In the current day and age, you're using annotation. So your scale factor should always be 1. Okay, LT scale, PSLT scale, MSLT scale. Just keep it 1, so keep it easy for you guys. Yeah. Well, actually, I have to check it. But the thing is that by default, we always set everything to 1. Yeah, so that you just keep it easy for yourself. Original, I need to type all 3 commands. Correct. Yeah, I could create a command. but that's fine. Or that's something that's up for discussion. I'll probably add it in saying that like LTMS, LT, whatever, all one, then it would just do all that thing together. I'll create a command for that using list routine. Same thing applies for dimensions, attributes. Table style, it will not scale, so you kind of have to make sure you put in the correct table scale. Okay, that's the unfortunate thing. The table scale is not annotative, so all the tables in there are based on certain size. Okay, that's a stupid thing. I don't know why they didn't bother. There's also shape. Let's say if you're doing on fire rating, okay, so it's in there. You want travel distance down here. Okay, pattern. This is just basically the generic pattern that you can put in for your details. Okay, I'm not gonna say what's what, and then you guys can just figure it out. This is kind of like our most generic stuff. The next thing you want to click on is the documentation. Now, this is where this becomes very handy because documentation is basically all derived from annotated scale. So if you click on a 1/4 inch and add that in, okay, and then if you change the scale, let's say I want to do like a 3 inch and add the same one, you notice that it basically interacts with that scale. Okay, so pick the scale, choose the scale, what you need, and then just add that annotation. Okay, pretty simple. I'm pretty sure you guys know how to do a lot of this. I know that there's one in particular user just did incorrectly. It's the grid tags. Okay, there's a difference between the two. Okay, I would say use this if you only have one scale. That will be your detail. Use this if you have multiple scale. So how I would do it is that first you draw your grid line. Okay, first you draw your grid line. Okay. And the next thing you want to do is that put in your grid bubble. Okay, right there. Okay. And then add another one. Oops. Now, the next thing you want to do is that you want to rotate this way, but you want to rotate the text the other way. So you get that as an A, and this is a 1. Now, if you want to add multiple scale, let's say I'm going to choose this, and add scale, let's say I want to do 1/8. Okay, now if I change it, you see that it's basically scale based on that insertion point. Okay, in the past I know that people just does their own thing, and then what does is that when they scale or add scale, it basically position just went off scale. So this is why this is very important. Now, why would I not use with the line? Because every time you scale, the line also scale with it. So just be careful. This is why I said use this for detail, and this is how you should be doing if you're doing more for like multiple scale. Okay. The other question I would get asked is that, what about the scale bar? Like, how would you use it? Okay, if you're doing a model space, if you're doing a scale bar, okay, what it is that as you import it in, you notice that it will take that scale, and every time when you change the scale, let's say I want to do this to a 1/4 inch, you see that the scale will automatically adjust to the scale. Okay, this is only in model space. But if you're doing it in a paper space, say this is my paper space for scale bar, okay, you notice that it's always going to keep that 1-to-1. So the first thing you want to do is that you want to click on this little button here, okay, always display if you're doing engineering or architecture, okay, I'm going to click on architecture. This is where you're going to basically put in a view scale. And this is where you're going to say, okay, this is going to be 1/8 inch. And that thing automatically adjusts based on your scale. Okay, those are basically for paper space. Okay, there's the two modes of it. Just be aware of that, because I know that people just overwrite this like crazy, saying that, oh, and then you know what, you're basically killing the intelligence within your scale bar. Okay, something to think about. Now we have all this stuff, and also I've been adding in a lot of this tags as well. Okay, so when you put in a tag, okay, within this tag you notice that there is a lot of the door type, door materials, blah, 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 blah. What this does is that if you want to use, let's say you want to schedule within AutoCAD, what you do is that you pick whatever size you want based on whatever it's chosen. Now this thing is not, it's not there yet, but you know, I constantly need feedback because a lot of this changes are based on user telling me that, oh, I need this, I need this, I need this, then I'll update this based on that. So it needs to be, the entire office has to kind of come in, you know, like a consensus that, oh, this is the standard, we're moving forward. If you guys are not telling me anything, I'm just assuming that this is the standard and then we're just going to run with it.
So this thing you're doing now, is that going to be something similar to Revit? So it will be automatically
that's the idea.
Information going to schedule?
That's the idea. That's the idea. Okay? The whole point of this framework is actually supposed to train you so that you, when you go into Revit, it's very similar, right? So you get the idea. That was the whole point because I can't train people like thousands of employees around the whole office. So the whole framework is actually designed much like how you use Revit. Okay? You enter it in, put whatever value you want, and then you extract that information. Okay? Now this is not going to be like very fast. I know that some people get frustrated because, you know, I can't override certain things. It's a hiccup thing, right? So it's not everything's going to be 100%.
Are you going to keep all these comments for cleaning that you have, shortcuts, and
yep.
From 2014?
Yes. Okay. So the question is that a lot of this tools, yes, it's going to be available. So a lot of time I tell users that anything that's newly added in, it's only going to be like a lot of the content's going to be added in. But all the other old stuff, it's still there. You could still use it. But, you know, just please keep in mind that some of the older stuff will not have that new content. Okay. So you guys know how this works. So the other thing I should show you guys is that, yes, we have some of the general notes, some of the parking general notes you guys could use. Let's say I'm going to go 1.8. You notice that there's a parking legend. I know in the past what people do is that they copy and paste from another project and just paste it into the project. So what I have is I create a kind of like a smart object that you can actually change to different jurisdictions. Let's say, for example, you're in Vancouver. Unfortunately, my mouse is very, very sensitive, but yeah. Okay. So here you could say Burnaby. Okay. What it does is that it will tell you that what is the city parking, and then it will just adjust all of this according to basically where you're at. Okay. Later on, I'm going to add it in for different municipality. Okay, like the Toronto and stuff like that. So yes.
And this is updated per bylaws?
That's correct. So every time people feed me information, this thing's going to get updated globally. Okay. If people don't feed me any information, I'm assuming it's correct. Okay. This is something that user has to be aware of that, right? So simply, they cannot simply just say, okay, I'm just going to do it for my own. I'm not telling anybody. That's the danger. Okay. This is something. Once I get this thing almost, then I'm going to tackle the Revit part because the Revit part it's another different animal. Okay. So first, I want to get people comfortable with this. Once they get comfortable, then we go to Revit. You have the same thing, except that it's going to work a little bit different, okay, because it's more of a smart object. But this one's kind of like a 2D thing. Now, if you want a door schedule, I did some sort of a door schedule that you guys can actually use. Just click on this. This is pretty slow at the moment, so what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to go show you what it does. Okay, so when you insert it in, this is the door schedule you're going to get, okay. First thing I'm going to do is that I'm just going to explode it. Once you explode it, just delete this, okay. And the nice thing about this is that if you don't need some of the door types, just delete it, okay? The nicest thing about this is that you can actually call back those door schedule. Like, let's say, for example, I want something else. Let's say this is no longer applicable. You can just pick whatever, choose whatever you need. Let's say, for example, here. Oops, sorry, it's right here. Look, yeah, sorry about this. There you go. So there's a lot of stuff in there that you can choose. Let's say I want a mechanical, okay? And what it is that this all basically pick up as it is. Okay, so if any new door type that you want to add it into your project, all you have to do is right click on here and say redefine. Okay, that means that it's going to be global. Okay, every update I did on here, you can always go right click and just say we hit redefine, and then what it does is that you always get the newest and the latest content. Okay, I like the old one, you just copy and paste, you don't know if it's the latest one or the oldest one, you don't know. Whereas this one is always going to keep updating itself. Okay, every time I add in new smart features, I'm just going to keep adding in stuff. So as long as people just keep feeding, then yes. Okay, so that's basically the documentation. I mean, you could just look around, see what makes sense to you, what doesn't make sense to you. I'm always open to feedback. Next thing I want to take a look is that design is basically you just add in walls, okay, your concrete walls, okay, enter. Nice thing about this is that you can always stretch. You don't have to deal with this. And it has like, you could do center, let's say if you wanted to do dimension, you see that you could pick the center of that. Okay, it has a built-in center line. If you want to increase the size of this, let's say for example, it's no longer 6 inches. Okay, you see here, you can increase it to 12.
That's not Travis, is it?
Exactly. Well, this thing is supposed to be training you guys to say that this is how Revit works. All right. It doesn't have a smart object. Like I said, everything is just 2D lines, and you have to kind of go in there and just go, okay, I'm going to go trim this, right? Just trim. And then just say cut. That's it. And then what it does is that it still retains that, you know, this object as it is. And you can always change the top, bottom, etc. So this is basically your positioning, okay, if you want to do that. Now, the nice thing about this is that you no longer have to use the offset. Okay, the offset command just drives you nuts, right? When user does that stuff, they don't take into consideration that, you know, you need double line. And also adds in like a partition as well. So if you want to do like a simple partition, enter. Okay, so there you go. So there's your partition. You can just adjust it accordingly. Okay, you don't have to do a lot of the stuff. There's also detail as well. There's the simple and there's detail. So what detail does is that when you click on this, it has the whole assembly built into it. The only disadvantage to this is that it's set to as scale 1. So if you adjust 2, it means that it's double the size. You don't want to do that. Whereas this one, you can still change it, right? So this is, you could change this to 7 inches. And what does it that becomes 7 inches? Okay, so some differences, the detail.
Which one?
Okay, so if you're doing a detail of certain things, then you just draw that line and then it's there.
Okay, now I have a question.
Okay, go ahead. And then you have the doors. It's kind of like basically the doors. A couple of questions. Okay, let's go ahead. While this is loading.
First, for example, now I'm working in a couple of projects. They're all in 2014.
Yes.
So we cannot switch to 2016.
You can.
I can?
You can, yes. The reason why I say you can is because both 2016 and 2014 are using 2013 file format. So if you save one over the other, there's no differences. It's fine. The only difference is that you have to be careful is 2014, whenever you have this educational stamp, you cannot remove it in 2014. You can only remove it in 2016. So every time when you do a save as inside 2016, it would automatically remove those stamps, okay, so that your consultant's not getting that educational stamp. And the other thing, the other difference is that some people are used to the classic menus. In 2015, you only get ribbons and you only get the pull-down menus, which is kind of suck, but you know what? It's a trade-off, something that people may or may not like. Unfortunately, we are moving towards 2018 in the future, a couple months. I don't know. I'll have to do some testing. Once that's deployed, everything's going to be, you know, towards ribbon. So it's better that people get familiar with the tools so that when you go into 2018, you're not going to have stumbling block. Because that's one of the issue with the previous one is that people are still stuck in 2011, even though I told people go to 14. Once 2011 is no longer there, everybody's like scrambling, oh, where's that menu, and then complaining about, you know, why I'm not, you know, this is not productive. It's because people are not train, okay? So it's better to get into 2016 now so that when you go into 2018, it's a little bit more familiar with tools. So that's why I say. Okay, for doors, just insert in, as you know it, it's all dynamic blocks, so you can choose the different framing. I know that some people like to use a certain frame, work frame. You can also do wood, okay? It's up to people how they want to do it, right? And there's a metal door. If you want a metal, there you go. Okay, so those are basically details. So it's basically incorporated into this. So that if people want to do very, very detailed stuff, then yeah, this is where you choose it. Structure, same details. Again, I'm trying to incorporate as much stuff into this as much as possible. As long as people just keep me content, I'll just put them in. Okay, waterproof membrane, just click on it and just draw your membrane. Okay, unfortunately, you need to be at 3 inches to a foot. Then you get that. Okay, so that's the detail part. I'm gonna keep adding more, like let's say window, like a section, window plan, etc., so that people have access to all the content. If we just have to start giving me stuff, I have to start cleaning up some of this so that whenever you put it in, it's gonna be the standard stuff.
Is there a way to prevent people scrolling those notes?
Yes. Yes.
You know, what happens is that they start using that. They want to
That's
they just
correct.
scroll and
okay. One thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to start putting in, you cannot explode it, but I'm not going to tell, like, you know, there is a way you can do it. But one thing a lot of people have to stop doing is that don't, when you go into Revit, the BIM coordinator or whoever's the BIM lead is going to be the guy who's doing the content. Okay, you have to think of that, right? Don't just create your own stuff. Just ask the guy who's expert at content creating. Let them deal with it so that you guys just go on and just do your own thing, and then don't basically customize all this stuff. Because I know that a lot of times people want us to customize because, oh yeah, I want to make it more artistic, but we don't care if you're artistic or not. All we care about is you don't screw things up for other people. That's the whole point. Okay, if you want to do like very, very fancy stuff, yeah, just I would say go for it if you want to do competition projects. There's a lot of competition projects if you guys want to do it, if you have time. But the thing is that a lot of this content is main for, you know, for other people as well, so it's not just you. Several other stuff, you guys can just look at it. This is basically just stairs. I mean, doing a demonstration about how to do this, and then when you add it in, you can actually change the height of the stair. So you don't have to kind of like insert in, calculate how many steps you need. This one tells you if you say your floor to floor height is 9'8", 9'8" will give you that riser, so it's already preset for that. Okay, way quicker, way easier, so you don't have to deal with this. The other thing is that window. I'm still working on elevation portion. This is kind of pathetic. Okay. One thing I want to do with the elevation is that I might do like certain height so that when you insert it in, it's gonna have like a certain module, and when you do like an array of certain things, then it becomes much easier for you guys, especially the elevation people. Layout, couple things. Again, you can always add in toilets and all that stuff, and then this is just the door and elevation, and then there's also depot as well. Any questions so far? So basically, those are the two that you would use most of the time. It's the tool palette, and sometimes insert in your sheet set manager. This one is basically adding scale. Okay, there's reset scale, and then there's clear scale. So let's say, for example, if the scale is not used, all right, when you click on clear scale, what it does is that it basically eliminates some of the scale. Right now, all the scales got used. Unfortunately, when you hit clear scale, it will not clear it out unless one of those things gets deleted. On that line type, like if you need like a certain line type, this basically will load in all the line type. Okay. When you click on this, unfortunately, my mouse is very, very, very awkward. Yeah, unfortunately. So you click on it, basically it just loads the line type. The rest, fields, if someone screwed up the sheet set manager, let's say the field, this will basically bring it back. Okay. I'll demonstrate how to do that in my next lunch and learn how to do this pretty quickly. And then cleanup tools. Again, you're going to have to go in there and then just click on this, delete wipeout. They're pretty, small, but you have to kind of hover it to see what they are. Okay. Remove all sheet tab. This is pretty useful if you have received consultant files, like a Civil 3D file, perhaps. A lot of times they have like all this multiple tabs with all this title block. I usually just use this, just clean it out because you don't need their title blocks. All you need is just whatever content is in their model space. Okay, just to kind of like make your file lighter. Okay, there's a lot of stuff you just have to look, converting stuff, and then there's utility. If you don't get like what those icons does, I usually just use the IBI group drop-down menus. There's always like cleanup tools that tells you what they are. Okay, this is much easier. Some people like to use this. Okay, but the icon just doesn't tell you anything. And this miscellaneous utility, this is the same as the 2D tools, etc., etc. Now, the other thing is that some people are asking, like, oh, I want to add custom command. Let's say, for example, I want to add C as copy rather than circle. How you do that, right? You can do it. What I recommend people does is that don't modify the PGP files because it would not work. The reason why is that when you go into the next version, that PGP is going to be wiped out, and then you have to start over that process again. So what I recommend user does is type in the command called the app load, or AP, okay, app load. So what it does is that it allows you to basically load a certain command to replace certain things. So click on the content. Okay, right now you have 2 default already added in, okay. If you want to add more, you click on add, and what you want to do is that you click on this called the custom command. And what I have in here is that this is all commands that was submitted by users, okay? So if you want to have C as copy, just double click on the C as copy and hit open. All right, now you have C as a copy, and what it does is that it will automatically add to your list. Okay, and close, and then close. Now, when you start the new drawing, come on. Yeah, sorry, my menu is, yeah, there you go. Okay, when you hit C, you see that right now it's becoming a copy rather than circle. Okay, you have to restart the AutoCAD, then it works. Okay, so first time when you're doing it, in the current drawing, it will not work unless you open up a new drawing, then it will basically fix that up. All right, any questions so far? We're almost reaching to 1. So do you guys, webinars, do you guys have any question? No question. All right. Yeah, I hope this is informative. Moving forward, this is basically how we're going to manage to use content. This is why right now we have interior design as kind of like the new kind of, it's kind of like the new thing, right? So what I have is that I also built in their customized stuff. It still works because I'm not sure what's their kind of like their standards, okay, how they're going to work. They have to tell me everything so that I can capture a lot of their processes and put it up there. But it's going to be very similar. So if you're working with them, let's say they need you for doing some projects, you click on their interior tool palettes, it's going to be the same as the architecture side. The architecture side is well established. It's just that we just want to copy the template and then move it across to their platform. Any questions? No? Clear as mud, I hope. All right. All right, so I guess in summary, basically I said a lot of this content is available globally, so make sure that you guys don't copy and paste. Just give me the content so that I could basically put it up here and share it with everybody. And moving forward, yes, this framework, it's supposed to be like a training. You're doing things, but you're in training at the same time so that you understand the workflow. Once you understand that workflow, moving towards Revit, it becomes much easier because the same thing I've set up in this framework. It's the same how you're going to work inside Revit. Okay? All right, that concludes today. Hope you enjoyed today's session. All right, if you have any questions, just give me an email. Send me an email.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.